Hello and welcome to Mabina TV. So for now, these are the top headlines in Kenya. So I will look at the top headlines in Kenya. Number one, who from the Standard newspaper, who's fooling whom? That is, who is fooling whom? From the Standard newspaper. So this is about the national government saying that it will help the county government of Nairobi manage some functions. So you can imagine that the national government is going to help the county government manage some functions. So basically, this is about Governor Johnson Sakaja. Has he failed in some duties? Has Governor Johnson Sakaja failed in some duties? And maybe that's the question we need to ask. Is Nairobi too big to be managed by the county government? And maybe we need to return to the era. Maybe a special ministry should be created for Nairobi. Maybe that's what we mean, that a special ministry should be created for Nairobi. So basically, right now, Governor Johnson Sakaja is saying that President William Ruto has said the national government will pump about 100 million shillings to the county government of Nairobi. So basically, is that it? Is that it? Is that it? Basically, that is something that you should tell me. Is that it? Should the national government be pumping money? Is that taking over some functions of Nairobi? And what is the purpose of devolution then? Nairobi needs the mind of a Wall Street power broker who is able to articulate the latest issues that the deepest issues that Nairobians face, but also Nairobi has informal settlement. 80% of Nairobians live in 70% of Nairobians live in slums. So you must emotionally connect to the peasantry. That's how Nairobi could be remade. And I think pumping 80 billion shillings to Nairobi, the senator of Nairobi, that is Edwin Sifuna, says that the national government, through the various institutions of national government, they owe Nairobi County 100 billion shillings, and if they could have paid that money, then Nairobi County could have the resources it needs to carry out its function. So basically, and this is an acknowledgement that this has failed. This is an acknowledgement that basically this is something that we need to work on. This is something that I think we need to really think twice about it, and that is why then Nairobi has to. This is why Nairobi has to work. Basically, Nairobi has to work. Nairobi is the face of Kenya. It controls about 50% of the GDP. That is, Nairobi controls about 50% of the GDP of the country. It is a gateway not just to Kenya, but to Africa, since it is equidistant between North Africa and Northern Africa and Southern Africa. So Nairobi is equidistant, so it could easily be the gateway to Africa, but then it is wholly mismanaged. Nairobi needs the mind of a CEO. Basically, Nairobi needs the mind of a CEO, and I think that is how Nairobi then could be function. Nairobi needs the mind of a CEO, the mind of a Wall Street power broker, and I think you have the first governor being a CEO, Evans Kidero, then you had the next governor of Nairobi, and you had the next governor of Nairobi. Who is it? The next governor, Mike Sonko, was for the Holoi Poloi. Of course, Polycarp Igathe was brought in as the business community interest person. So, of course, you had Polycarp Igathe being the CEO of several multinational companies, and of course, he was brought in so that he could be the antidote to Mike Sonko, but he resigned, I think, just after 3 months, saying he had failed to earn the trust of then Governor Mike Sonko. So the business community thought that Polycarp Igathe would have been the one the business community thought that maybe Polycarp would have been the one to take care of the interests of Nairobi. So that is as it is now. I think we just need to be able to have, as it is, we need to be able to have the mind over, that is, Nairobi needs to have the mind over. Was it for broker, and then of course the mean of a peasant. That is where 60% of 70% of Nairobians really 70% of Nairobians come from slums, and you should be able to associate with them. Then came Johnson Sakaja. So Johnson Sakaja seemed the best of both worlds. He seemed to have the mind of a CEO and the personality of a village peasant. That is Johnson Sakaja. But then it seems Nairobi is just too big for him, and so this is something I didn't expect that Johnson Sakaja will fail to bring about development in Nairobi. And think about it, Nairobi, you have that is it is the headquarters of several multinationals that call Africa home. You have Nairobi being the headquarters of UNEP, being the headquarters of UN Habitat, and some of the functions of the UN are going to be moved to Nairobi. So you can imagine some of the functions of the UN are going to be moved to Nairobi. So basically, Nairobi, they are going to be transferred from a United Nations functions are going to be transferred from New York to Nairobi. So Nairobi really is going to be a bustling center of activity, and it should be a city that should really work. And this is why I believe that this is why I believe then that Nairobi must be able to be governed well, must be able to be managed well. You had in 2013 the CEO of Dyer and Blair Investment Bank, Jim Nambaru. He bought. You had the CEO of Dyer and Blair Investment Bank, Jim Nambaru. He bought. That is Jim Nambaru. He bought advertorial space in the local dailies, about 14 million shillings, 14 pages of advertorial on how he was going to remake Nairobi. But that was not to be. You found that, and that was not to be. You found that basically he did not get the Jubilee Party ticket. It went to a person of the Holo Polloi. It went to Ferdinand Waititu. So you can imagine that very much in Nairobi. And I thought really that Johnson Sakaja had what it takes to manage Nairobi, but then it seems that that is not what Nairobians feel. Nairobians really should be thinking hard about how to remake the city, how to make the city really shine. So that's it. Who is fooling whom? And Nairobi needs, and I think Nairobi generates on-source revenue of about 10 billion shillings. So this on-source revenue, but I think it has squeezed the business person of Nairobi is squeezed to near death, and I think that is something I think needs to be happening. So you have, I think Kenya is a two-level system of government. You have the national government and the county government. We don't have a three-tier government, say like Nigeria or America, where they have the federal government, the state government, and the local government. So basically, Nairobi combined both the state government and the county and the local government to become one. So I think in pursuing more revenue, the business person of Nairobi is squeezed almost to death, and that should not be happening. We should be having businesses even get tax rebates. They said that if you put a signboard of the name of your business on the door. That is advertisement, and you are taxed for it. So you can't see this jostling for on-source revenue. It is squeezing the business person to the last coin, to the last cent, and that just strengthens the business activity in Nairobi. So you should let me know what you think about it. I think Nairobi, those in the national government think a special ministry should be created for Nairobi, but I just think that Nairobi should be handled as a separate. And I think you could have Nairobi being the stepping stone towards the presidency. If a governor performs well in Nairobi, that could be the stepping stone towards the presidency. You can't see, even like in America, you had George W. Bush being the governor of Texas and then using that as a stepping stone towards being the governor, being the president of the United States. Likewise, I think you could have a governor of Nairobi then using that as a stepping stone to being the president of the country. And maybe for Babuino, that is why he is eyeing the Nairobi gubernatorial seat and then attempt and wrestle the presidency in 2032. But it is a poison chalice, Nairobi. If you fail in Nairobi, then you could go down the drain. Look at Sonko. He had ambitions of being the president of Kenya, but then, of course, Nairobi did not work out for him. So, do you think Nairobi can do you think what do you think it takes to hack Nairobi? Do you think that it's really do you think that Nairobi is that hard to be managed? Is it too hard to be managed? So you let me know on that deal between President Ruto, the national government, and the county government of Nairobi, in which the national government is going to be helping Nairobi in some of its duties. So that's the headline for now from the Standard newspaper, was falling home between the national government and the Nairobi county government. So bye for now, till the next time.